Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deeply Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deeply Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 391. Today is Saturday, November 13th, 2021, and I'm glad you could join me today. It is a pretty sunny, warm day. The light might get terrible soon. We shall see. I did not get to record early today. What would it be? So, there was an errand that we had been putting off for a very long time, and I took a glance into the future, and it was like, oh no, I am going to be unavailable 3 weekends in a row. So, what would it be? So it was sort of the, what is that? Yeah, no, that's basically true. So it was like, oh no, if we don't do this now, we're never going to do it. Never is a strong word, but it was going to be a long time before we had another opportunity to try. So we went out in the world. There were tacos. I might have hurt the dear sweet lovable one by accidentally feeding him a taco that was extremely spicy. See, it wasn't even a taco truck. It was a taco trailer. I don't know if they just leave it there all the time or what, but it's a cozy place. But they were delicious. It has been quite some time since I last got to have some delightful street tacos. Probably since I had whatever, the last week that I worked in my previous job. I think there were a lot of tacos that week, which is fair because they're delicious. So, whatever. So today has been busy. There hasn't been a whole lot of knitting. But such as I don't even know if I finished the row. See, that's where we're at right now. But it works out. And right now the coffee is warm and delicious, so you would think I would try hard to drink it all up swiftly. So, it appears that I am not yet done with this row. So I will finish this row while I talk to you guys about this project. So what I'm working on is Donner, which is a drop shoulder texture stitch sweater by Blue Bee Studios or Elizabeth Daughtry. I have not been working as much on this project, but right now this is actually the only project on the needles. I am knitting this to the size where it will be good for my arm, I think plus an inch of ease. I think that'll end up being good. Good for that, and definitely know that this is wide enough in order to drop, so that is pleasant. What I'm working on right now is actually, or would it be? It's like an 8-row repeat, and I'm working on the basically 3 or whatever, 5 rows of not a lot, and then 3 rows of just a little interesting. It seems like it ends up actually going pretty fast in the grand scheme of things. So I am knitting this out of my hand spun. So this is a mixture of merino and alpaca and Polworth and silk. and I think it actually ends up being ratio-wise, like a little bit more pull worth, because it was like it was 4 ounces of 80/20 Polar Silk, and then it was 6 ounces of the 50/50 Merino Angora. And so I combined these into many 1 ounce layered bats and spun them end to end and two-plied them back on themselves. So it is very soft, fairly fine yarn, and so it was I don't know, so it was the case where I needed to do a bit of sweater searching to match my yardage to match my yardage and my yardage with the sweater pattern. That made sense, the yardage and weight, roughly speaking. Luckily this ended up turning out to be plenty. I am getting gauge at a significantly smaller needle than the pattern indicates, but whatever, I'm getting gauge. That's what matters. I was thinking, I was like, oh wow, I really like this fabric more, and then I read the pattern like, oh, that is the written gauge. I guess I should do that. I won't need to do any calculations to figure out well, crap. It appears that I got turned around mid-row, so I'm gonna actually have to rip back a little bit. Whatever. Such is life. This is what I get for picking up and putting down this project many times today. So we're not gonna finish this row because yeah, I'm gonna have to rip back a little bit in order to fix this. So this is how it's turning out so far. What would it be? It's like there certainly is still like a little bit of stripiness to it, but there's also the texture pattern as well. There is danger in holding this too far out. See, it'd be like, there's a sunshine. See, I don't even know we're gonna get really good focus, but you can sort of see the texture in here. The texture is probably much more obvious in real life. But would it be not too crazy busy in the grand scheme of things. And the color runs in this are actually probably short enough that it isn't like I'm gonna get as much of that horizontal line going on in this that you would normally get. I'm gonna have to rip that back a little bit. See, I can see exactly where I went wrong, so that's okay. But it like this hasn't gotten a lot of love. I think I had, or would it be? It was the case where I almost had enough that I almost had enough that it was time to do that texture again. So I was actually working on the first row of texture. But whatever, such is life. So it hasn't gotten a lot of love, but I do anticipate it will be seeing much more in the future. As you do. So I'm trying to think. No, it's fine. So I haven't yet got into even the zone of plausibility. Ooh, but I didn't kill that. We're fine. Okay. I swiped a little bit too enthusiastically. So I haven't reached the zone of plausibility where it's like I'm not even close to needing to measure. So that is fine. What would it be? That is a-okay in my book. But it's like not too much longer. I think she said that you ended up, if you were knitting to gauge, you end up working like 9 repeats of the pattern or something like that, supposedly for my size. And I've made it to almost 6, so it's not too much more to go. But I'll go off of measurements. Yeah. I don't know whether or not it's one of those dealios where you go to the nearest repeat or not. I'll have to reread the pattern and interpret. And I think that's part of the problem right now, is that I don't want to sit down and deeply understand the pattern. So I really just need to power through on a weekend this part of the sweater, and it will be fine after that, as you do. But whatever. Just have to like meet myself where I'm at, and that's where I'm at right now. Call it good. So that is the story there. I'm maybe a little bit bummed that what would it be? Just a little bit bummed that I had managed to screw that up. It's not like a big screw up, like this is just the problem with like knitting flat. So apparently I got distracted and got turned around, and these things happen. And we will persevere through. So I anticipate that there will end up being more love on this sweater soon. This is mostly just a function of this is like one more. Okay. I probably don't need to beat this extreme. Okay. Whatever. I will figure out the efficient way of ripping back and call that good. So, what is hilarious about it right now is that I have it in that, Ferret or whatever, that is a sweater size bag from the Fat Squirrel. And it is very large. It is probably too large for my little Swift, so would it be? It was the case where would it be? I was like tossing my bag places, and it was just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So, what would it be? So that is the story. There is this is going to need a slightly more rejiggering, but whatever. Such is life. Thinking about it, I probably actually want to go from the other end, but whatever. It's like, it shouldn't be my problem right now. So that's gonna need slightly more thinking. Not like it's that crazy. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know. So who would it be? But it didn't end up getting a whole lot of love this week. It came with me today because it was the only thing on the needles. I pulled out some yarn from the stash to start something new though. So that's exciting. So I actually finished 2 things this week, which was pretty cool. So, what would it be? I finished a second Fog City hat. So this is Farina, what is it? Glakova? Fanina? Fina Goberstein. So this is the pattern photo, but I ended up doing the variation where I did a little bit of purling in the mosaic to make it stand out more, because even though this is more contrasty yarn this time around, it still seemed like I wanted to have slightly more contrast, so I did that variation again. And I ended up making this the small size, and then there was a time at which you ended up getting the stitch count right for this second motif's repeat, and I opted to decrease a little bit to give me the right multiple. So this fits so much better than the last one. The last one I think I ended up making a large, and that, excuse me, was way too big for me. I knit this out of Jacob, hand spun from Jenny Jump Farm. And so I had about 1 ounce of leftovers with the lighter color, and then I ended up spinning 2 ounces special. And I basically have close to none, or there might be an end floating around here somewhere, of the 2 ounces of darker gray. But this is how much I have of lighter gray, and this is how much I had left over from the previous hat. So I think I must have spun a little bit thinner for the other one, because technically speaking, this is a much smaller hat, but whatever. So I don't have a lot left over. I pulled this one out because I was actually concerned that I was going to run out before I could finish the bind off on this, but it turned out to be fine. So I now have my own version of the fog hat to wear when it is foggy and be super mega San Francisco. So I think it ended up turning out really cute. It'll be, or would it be? I would say that would it be? The Jacob is definitely a much more rustic yarn for sure. So would it be? It's probably going to be the case where this isn't as much of an all-season hat as some of the other ones would be, just because would it be? You definitely want it to be like a little bit colder. And the way that I ended up making or hitting target in terms of getting something that was somewhere between like a worsted and DK weight was to 4-ply this. So I just ended up making 2 bobbins, made center pull balls from both, and then ply from both ends. So that is how I ended up making that. So this is, would it be? And then I ended up giving the other hat to my mother-in-law because it fit her much better than it did me. She has bigger hair or something, I don't know. Bigger head, who knows? So, not too crazy there. Would it be? I do think I managed to appropriately evoke fog in the making of this. And would be, I would say, likely this one I think would be the next thing that I think I would want to make out of this book. So this one is called Fairy Building, and it has like a little bit of cable, drop shoulder, a lot of ribbing, turtleneck. So I think that'll be really cute and fun. So not too crazy there. And then end up having a fun swirl at the top. So should be good. And then the other thing that I ended up finishing was another hat out of another hat out of my Fluff to Stuff yarn. So this is a skein that I ended up making a Tensfield hat by Martina Ben. And I ended up knitting, oh, I found the leftover. So Tensfield hat, Martina Bain. This was knit out of, would it be, there was a bat, and there were two sets of rologs. And so one set of rologs sort of had like an acidy green and black, and the other set had sort of a swampy green and a blue. Oh dear. Let's see if I'm going to show up true color. I don't know that the color's going to really show true today. But whatever, you can see how fun the shorter color repeats are with this hat pattern. So it is, I don't recall what the 1 ounce bat ended up being, but it was probably like a little bit more of a rustic wool. So it, or would it be, there's definitely some feels with this. And this is how much leftovers I have, so I managed to do pretty good. Let's see, can I get the leftovers past the point? There we go. So there's all sorts of, this section I think ends up having a little bit more blue than the acidy green, but it gives you like a rough idea of what's going on. But I do think it is a really cute way to use hand spun, so that is lovely. And because this was pretty fine, I decided to hold the yarn double. So, and the first part of this skein was actually just the rologs, and so I sort of marled that in with the other half, which I think is what you can see on this side of the hat here. And then launched into, would it be, and then eventually I ended up running through all of that, and then ended up getting to sort of this more marly sorts of stuff. But it definitely has like a definite stripy pattern to it for sure. And then when the color repeats started to get smaller, you end up getting some pretty big blocks of color too. So I think this ended up being like a pretty good use for the 3 ounce skein, because like, what would it be? I probably had the yardage to make like a bigger thing, but it's sort of nice to just have like a simple hat out of the hand spun, call it good. Another project that ended up being sort of a complete cycle for Fluff the Stuff. So the fog hat was a part of Fluff to Stuff. The previous fog hat was Fluff to Stuff. This one was another one that I had spun this year. And then immediately knit up, or immediate might be a strong word. immediate strong. so that is the story there. But everything was, or would it be so? Two of the plies were samples from the blending board class. One of the plies I think was from the first drum carder class I took. And so would be now there's a hat. Yay! It's a little bit, this one actually turned out really cozy. I got to knit this on, the US 5 needles that had just arrived. I'm wondering if I can hold this close enough that it use its bulk to shade it. So you can maybe sort of see the colors. I tried. Yeah, no, I guess we're not gonna have a true to color day today on the like the sweater looks right. Like everything else in the room looks fine. So I don't know why the hats are all weird. But yeah, no, 2 finished objects in 1 week. That was pretty exciting. And on it, like the hat went really fast for sure. The green hat went really fast for sure. So what was it? So it'd be the case where I cast on the Fog City hat on Sunday. So I haven't even shown either project on the podcast. I probably wound the yarn after I finished recording. And I'm trying to think about what day I ended up starting the green hat, but I was like most of the way through the green hat on Thursday. Like I probably cast on that one on Thursday. And then wrapped up, feeling like I was playing tighter yarn chicken than I actually played, but pretty close. I definitely pulled out my scale after, or I definitely did pull out my scale. So it is actually like a pretty good rule, all things considered, where it's like how much yarn it takes to get to, or like basically how much yarn it takes to get it to go around your head. And then I just know that I need to reserve that much yarn at the end to make sure that I can finish off the hat. And then you're good to go. And then you just sort of knit the medium part, or knit that middle section until you reach that number. And then you know that you're pretty close to using the full skein. So now I'm just going to have a bunch of minis. Not a lot of minis, but whatever. Small skeins take up a much smaller amount of space in the stash than full skeins, so that is fun. As you do. So to continue the theme of November is the month where I try to knit with as much hand spun as humanly possible, I did pull out this rainbow skein. So this, I believe, this is Western Skynet's Polworth Silk. And I don't remember what the colorway name is. The colorway name is Poppy. And this is a rainbow chain ply that I made. It's actually pretty thick. I think it's probably safe to say that I can knit this with the US 5s as well. And so I'm not actually making this rainbow hat for me. I will be giving it away. And I will need to pester or would it be? So far, we've gotten confirmation about, yes, that would be wonderful, but I have not yet received the data, which is head circumference. And so I'll probably end up doing a similar thing to this hat. So this hat, I ended up making with 15% negative ease. And I think it's just perfect. What would it be? So it'd be the case where my head is 21 inches, and I believe that 15% negative use is, roughly speaking, about 18. So it's possible that I'm just going to end up duplicating that hat. But in this case, the rainbow will just be held single because it is a much thicker skein. So I am super duper glad that I have figured out the right person for this, and so that is exciting. So I'm going to be winding this today and casting on, and it may be the case where this is a project that doesn't end up lasting me particularly long. But whatever you put after that, I think I will have burned through my obvious stash of hat yarn. Because other things are either significantly finer or like significantly more yardage. That's a 4-ounce skein. Would it be? Could there have been other projects besides hats that it would be good for? Certainly, but I don't know. I think that's gonna end up being a solid choice for the yarn. So that's gonna be fun. So I will be So I will be figuring out that from there, and then there probably will be leftovers when I finish that one. So I'm not gonna try to force 4 ounces. I'm not gonna try to force 4 ounces into a hat. Because like 3 ounces is plenty, especially at like a DK weight. So what would it be? I guess 100 grams is like 3.5, right? So what would it be? So 4 ounces is 115. That's just decadent. So the other craziness on the floor was that it was actually a pretty good week for stash acquisition, so I did finally get my replacement US 5s. And I also picked up 2 tiny circs and a 50-inch cable. So I picked up some 000s and a US 6 because I figure that's gonna be a really useful sleeve size. Not because I had a specific project in mind, but it was more like, yeah, whatever. This gets me to free shipping. I like buying needles from this person on Etsy. It's the Grandma's Knit and Crochet. But yeah, no, so I am back in business with my US 5s again. So that is very exciting. There is a 6 rolling around on the floor as well. But yeah, so I think this one is like the 22-inch cable, and then this is more just because it seems like I just keep wanting to have like a really ridiculously long cable, and I never seem to have it. So, shouldn't be too crazy. Maybe I was slightly silly, because I probably should have also picked up a 3mm 4-inch tip, because right now my tips are 5 inches, and it is like a little too long. I actually do like the 4-inch tips. So I think I intended to clean this room last week and said it was bothering me, and I'm looking around and being like, I didn't do that. I didn't do that at all. Oh my gosh, what was I thinking? So whatever. It's like I should have, but I guess I didn't. So the other thing that ended up arriving was actually some fiber. So I ended up putting in an order for Nest Fiber Studio. And this is part of what I got. So this is Calavera. It is Superwash Merino. And it has like a bright teal, green, red. It's like, what would it be? It definitely has some pretty good rainbow vibes going on. Like some almost like gray in it as well, though. Or sort of like a bluey gray color. As you do. So I just figured that this one was going to end up being fun to spin. It's been a while since I've done a Superwash Merino project. And I do really like the Nest Superwash Merino. The other thing that I ended up picking up is going to be a drum carder project. May end up being a drum carder project for tomorrow instead of today. But I ended up picking up semi-solid coordinates for, what would it be? So I am not a member of the Nest Club right now, so because I am not a member, I can only buy the coordinates. I can't buy actually the club colorway until it loses its exclusivity. But this is, I think, actually the club colorway from a few months ago, so no one had picked it up. But so we have various shades of pink, 2 shades of green, and then we have like a natural and like a goldeny yellow. And so I am actually going to be making several bats. I'm guessing 2-ounce bats, but we'll see how I feel. So I'm like trying to remember the colorway name, and it's totally escaping me right now. So this is Rainbow Lede, and it should end up making some really fun raw material. So I'm not sure. I haven't decided which way I'm gonna end up splitting up the colors on this. But it should end up being sort of a fun project. Would it be? And it'll be the case where I'll send half of it away, and half of it will be for me. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm like trying to think about whether or not I want to like lean into the floweriness of it all, or if I want to do like a little bit more mixing. So I haven't quite decided if my color story is going to have all 8 colors in a bat, or if I'm going to do 4 and 4. So that is the question. But I'm pretty sure at this point that I'm going to leave it as bat form and call it good. So should be fun. Yeah, and this one is probably just sort of this guy here is probably just very lightly dyed in the grand scheme of things. So that was another thing that arrived in the mail. And then the last thing that actually arrived in the mail, which I think I was intending to wear this, but I was like, okay, whatever. So this is a shirt that I ended up winning as a prize. So this is a shirt by Gigi Made It. So it says, "It's not hard, it's new." And I was definitely feeling these feelings. Would it be? It'd be the case where, like, starting a new role, being in a new company, trying to figure out what's going on. So I figure that's gonna end up being the theme for quite some time. It's like, it's not hard, it's new. Like, I'm not good at it yet, it's okay. Like, I'm capable of being, like, there's no doubt of the capability. There's just a honest reckoning that it could definitely be better. um, so I was on the Maker Minutes live stream last Sunday, and so Mars of the Hey Brownberry podcast and Denise of the Earth Don't Snow podcast were having a wrap up of their October. I'm like, I'm not doing anything right now. I'm gonna tune in because I'm a subscriber of both of their podcasts, and even though I wasn't maybe explicitly participating in the knit along, it's still would it be. I was knitting socks in October, that is for sure. And I was actually chatting with the Dear Sweet Lovable one about something, and then it was like, they called my name, and it turned out that I had won a prize. So, would it be? So I was excited to find out that I found the t-shirt. And what would it be? It'll be the case where this is a knitting t-shirt, which is not like super explicitly knitting. So, it's like, what would it be? It probably goes beyond knitting, but it'd be the case where I do know part of it is what would it be? The kernel of it does come from knitting. So super duper excited to be able to have a GD made a t-shirt. Super excited to have won a prize because it's been a long time since I've been that lucky. And it was a lot of fun to participate, so that was nice. So this will end up getting some fare, so that is good. And would it be? Should be cute. Let's see. And then the final thing that I wanted to cover was actually spinning. So what if we got like slightly distracted by stash positions, but the stash positions were mostly spinning related, so that's not too crazy. And honestly, this probably looks the best in sun, like wherever you can see how close the sunshine is to us now. So I am almost done with this ball of fluff. It will not take too much longer in order to get to the next stage on this one. And so what I've been doing is for my Friday night group, which is all virtual, always has been, always will. And I think, oh dear, there's just not enough room to spin here right now. I moved the computer a little closer. So the dealio is that I've concluded that I should at least try to spin a little bit on that, because what would it be? I'm in the presence of spinners, and that makes a lot of sense. It's like, as far as times to spin, it's a good time. So I've concluded that is what I need to do in order to get this project to the finished column, is that I need to spend time on it. And what would it be? Like, the turtle is definitely growing. What would it be? And then part of what's making this take slightly longer is that I am making a meat turtle while I'm making this. So that means that I'm taking that extra moment in order to make sure that everything is well aligned and neat, so I can pack as much fiber as possible in. And then it makes for very aesthetic pictures as well. But primarily I'm doing it just so I get like the raw packing density. That is my goal. But it does take an extra moment to sit down and find all of the bits that I've wormed on and make sure they're neatly next to the other things. But after that, it's not too crazy. So this is a mixture of hobbledehoy bowings in the Gandalf colorway, which is a Polworth and silk blend. And then the other thing is Angora Merino that I dyed Blurple. And then I blended them on the drum carder in order to make it spin nicer. So that ends up being pretty fun, I would say. Not too crazy in the grand scheme of things. For some reason, this section has appeared like actually sort of more on like the gray side of things, all things considered. Definitely have like whatever. If it gets a little crazy at the end, it's fine. So like what would it be? Like, is it getting a lot of time? No. Is it getting a little time? Yes. Is a little time going to get it done fast? No. Is a little time going to get it done eventually? Yeah, of course. I guess that's what I'm counting on here is that, what would it be? If I just keep plugging away at it, it'll be fine. So, that is the story there. I have not reached the point of spindle frustration. We will see if I reach the point of spindle frustration if I weigh it. And I disagree with the speed the project is going. Because technically speaking, I've been working on this since Tour de Fleece. Not very committedly, admittedly. But this has been a long-standing project for sure. But like, what would it be? Like, November is the month of handspun, but that doesn't mean it was making handspun. That was like June. June was when I made my most handspun, I'm assuming. So, whatever, it's fine. Like, I'm not too worried about it. I will be more worried, or would it be? Maybe I should be slightly more concerned because I have, what would it be? I'm just thinking about how much fiber I've bought since I've started this project. So I brought home 12 ounces this week, and I brought 4 ounces in a while ago. But I've probably spun about an ounce of this. So there is that. But it'll be fine. And now I'm just thinking, I don't know, I think I'll end up, or what would it be? Like, I have like a rough outline in my head about what I wanted to do, and I've just realized that I did not actually put that together in the right order. So I think the solution is actually to end up breaking that up into 2 parts, which is fine. Because I can only tell part of the story. So, but you know how it is. You'd be like, oh, I need to make sure that I gather all these things, and I've gathered all of the normal podcast things, but there's in fact more far-reaching things or whatever. There's more far-reaching things through the house that I wanted to discuss. But I think I will have to break it up. Which is fine, because we're almost at an hour already, and so if I was to bring everything over, it would be too much. That would be more than an hour of podcast. Which I don't think you guys would mind, but I don't know about you, but when I see a consistently 2-hour podcast, I tap out. I'm like, no. Like, I'll watch a podcast from the very beginning and spend many hours doing it. But if I see each individual episode is that long, it's like, what in the world are you talking about? I don't know. I suppose I do listen to Amy Beth, and she's probably, I enjoy every moment. And, like, at most, a third of her podcast is knitting, but I don't care. Because she has lots of other interesting things to say, which would be, or I'd be happy to listen to Amy Beth talk about knitting or not knitting. You know what I mean? Like, I don't talk quite as much about the not knitting, but this here is like a joint dealio. So, finish the coffee because it will end up being not as delightful. So, I've been knitting a lot of hats lately, as you can tell. I really like this one. This one is fiber optic. This is the Dear Sweet Lovable Ones hat. It is, what would it be, pretty hilarious in the grand scheme of it. Like, what, this is not an aesthetic hat. This is a very dorky hat, but it is very warm, and so he is very much so behind it. But if you were wondering why it was that I had been knitting so many small hats in addition to normal sized hats, that would be because we are expecting. So, and I've been keeping this information on the down low on the social media for quite some time because I had not properly filtered the information to the right people. And I would have told you guys last week, but then the Dear Sweet Lovable had not filtered the information to the appropriate people. So, I have been knitting baby hats and baby sweaters, and this is a baby blanket. I've been low-key baby knitting on the podcast since probably sometime in July. I kept the baby surprise jacket because that was just like super explicitly like a baby item. Oh, it was too hot for a hat. But yes, no, like we are expecting, the baby nugget is coming at the 5th of February or whenever they feel like it. Would it be, if you noticed the cropping getting tighter and tighter, part of that was because, what would it be? Part of that was like, it was just slightly awkward timing in terms of job change. And so it took a little while before I ended up announcing to my boss that I was expecting, which meant that I wasn't talking about it on social media. But if you had participated in knitting groups with me, you've known for a while. So, would it be? So, we are really excited. The errand that we were doing was actually going car shopping because it will no longer be appropriate to be a two-Miata household. Because, what would it be? We need a car with 4 doors and at least 3 seatbelts. What would it be? We'll just like mourn a little bit that we got rid of the Accord, but probably a good thing. So, what would it be? So that is the story there. But yeah, no, if you were wondering why it was that I was nonchalantly making very small hats. Like, what would it be? This is why. There's actually quite a few hats at this point. um, it was like a really good use of hand-spun leftovers, and like this one is like merino silk, so it is super kidney and soft. So what would it be? We're not making the baby nugget hats out of crochet wool, but yeah. So what would it be? So we are both very excited. We're also probably a certain amount terrified because what would it be? We have never done this before. We don't know what's going to happen. What would it be? We have a suspicion, but I don't think. And what I'll end up doing next week is I will show, would it be some of the, would it be? I'll just run through some of the other items that are going on. And then at some point today, I will end up posting the social media announcement because we will finally be able to go public with the news. Because if you do the math, like February, like I'm like already third trimester, guys. We've been sending out this information for a long time. So, as you do. But yeah, that was sort of the case where what would it be? Had to make sure that the information filtered in the right way and not the wrong way. This was what would it be? Whatever our crazy plan was. So, what would it be? And maybe that also like explains like the last time that I can fly before the baby nugget arrives is the 5th of December, and that will be the day that I'm flying back from Hawaii. So, or would it be? But definitely wanted to make sure that we got that trip in before they arrive, because we cannot predict how life will change. And it is actually looking positive for recording next week. So record next week, take 2 weeks off, come back actually with a Sunday episode because we have like an intense baby preparation workshop we're doing the Saturday after we get back. But then, or whatever, I think from there on out we will have very regular episodes because there's a worldwide pandemic on. So, with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So, take care, guys. Bye-bye.